Everyone, please be advised that the video of this meeting is streamed live on YouTube and will also be available on Facebook and the village website. I'd like to call the meeting to order and we'll call the roll. Trustee Augustine.
Here.
Trustee Gale.
Here.
Trustee McGee.
Here.
Trustee O'Brien.
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Here.
And President Kukler is absent. The quorum's been established, and since President Kukler is unavailable for tonight's meeting, I will entertain a motion to elect Senior Most Trustee Lou Gale as President Pro Tem to preside over the meeting. May I have a motion? Trustee McGee makes a motion. And a second? Trustee Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, let's get started. I'd like to invite the audience to stand, and let's have Clerk Saladino lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you, everybody. Our first order of business under the President's report is a recognition of Fire Department Lieutenant Brian Kramer for his 25 years of service to the village of the Grange. Brian joined the village in 1998, shortly after he began his fire service career with the Blue Island Fire Department as a full-time firefighter in 1997. During his career, Lieutenant Kramer has earned numerous Illinois Office of State Fire Marshal fire certificates and an associate's degree in fire science technology. Brian was promoted to lieutenant in January of 2015. Brian has been involved in many areas of the department since being hired. He has served as president of the Foreign Fire Insurance Board, a child safety seat technician, a CPR instructor, and handles the department's national fire reporting system. Lieutenant Kramer has also been a fire investigator for both the Department of the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System, Division 10 team since 2004. Brian's enthusiasm and professionalism for the village is second to none. He assists with and completes numerous public education projects using his interests and knowledge of the department and village. He's currently assigned to assist with fire prevention activities. At this point, I'd like Brian to come up to the podium if he'd like to say anything. I hope we didn't put you on the spot.
Yes, you did. Thank you to the village board. Thank you to the chief and everyone else, especially in the past 25 years that I've worked with also. It's an honor to work with these guys and the police department and everyone else within the village. It really means a lot, especially also the support I've received from my family and loved ones, and I can't wait for another 25 years. And I know the department looks forward to working with all the new village department heads, and we're optimistic about our future here. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Brian. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Brian. All right, moving along in the President's report, I first wanted to mention, some of you may have noticed there's some bunting up at the fire department. Our former chief, Jerry Granite, who served the village from October 1963 until July of 1990, passed away this past Sunday. So We send our condolences to his family and are thinking of them, and someone who was such a dedicated servant to our community. Then in more timely October news, Skeletober is upon us. This is the month-long display of the sharply dressed and friendly skeletons. This continues through Tuesday of next week, which is Halloween. Everyone is encouraged to snap a selfie and post your pictures with the hashtag Skeletober and tag the LGBA to enter into a random drawing. A walking map to help you find all the skeletons is also available. Visit the LGBA's website for more information. And I personally, is the fire department have one hanging from the? Right, you took it down. Right. All right. Well, I've always enjoyed some of the other skeletons around. So then, with that, trick or treating is coming up. Attention to all those that are young and those that are young at heart. The trick or treating hours are Tuesday, October 31st, and they're from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'd also like to say, please keep a lookout on your friends and neighbors' decorations, and also remind any of your younger or perhaps teenage kids that those are decorations, not toys. Let's be respectful of people's things. Seen some reports of some stuff gone missing. So then next, leaves are falling around the village. Tree leaves are changing color and falling to the ground. As tree leaves begin to collect, keep in mind that they can be composted. They can be added to your planting beds or passed over with your mulching mower. In addition to those options, the Village Fall Leaf Program is up and continuing through November 22nd. Under this program, residents may rake their leaves to the curb for pickup by the Public Works Department, which will occur every 2 to 3 weeks. Then next, there is a drug take-back day. So on Saturday, October 28th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the village will be participating in the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration Drug Take-Back Day. During the event, prescription and non-prescription drugs will be accepted where, Manager Knight?
They'll be accepted at the police department lobby.
Fantastic. I'm glad I didn't have to stand somewhere with a box. Very good. And with that, during the event, prescription and non-prescription drugs will be accepted, and please see the village website for a list of accepted items. And then with that, Manager Knight, can you give us the manager's report?
I can, and thank you, President Pro Tem Gale, and good evening, everyone. First off, congratulations to Lieutenant Kramer on his anniversary. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. First off, I'd like to thank everyone and congratulate the members of the fire department for hosting an educational and engaging open house on October 10th. Live demonstrations, the interactive displays, tables, and personal exchanges provided a great opportunity to provide education and tips on fire safety. Thank you to everyone that made that event happen. PD also participated, our police department participated in the trunk or treat event hosted by the Park District this past Saturday. This is another great example of excellent community engagement efforts that are being undertaken by our staff, so thank you for those efforts. This weekend, this Friday and Saturday, the village board and management team members will engage in the village's strategic planning effort. This regularly occurring effort serves to create a plan for the next 3 years through establishing a vision and priorities for the community. We're looking forward to this opportunity and continued pursuit of the excellent services that we provide to the Grange community. A quick plug and a reminder for the village's backup prevention grant program. Through a partnership with Cook County and funds available through the American Rescues Plan Act, $325,000 is available to support the program. Easy to fill out applications are available online with up to $3,000 available for the installation of backflow devices and $5,000 for overhead sewers. Those interested should visit the village's website. Lastly, motorists, parents, and children are asked to be vigilant when driving or walking through neighborhoods on Halloween. From all those on staff, we wish you all a very happy Halloween. President Pro Tem, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Manager Knight. With that, Clerk Saladino, can you please read the items on the consent agenda, followed by the current business?
Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they already have been considered fully by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of a routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to current business for separate consideration. Item A, a resolution authorizing the execution of a purchase agreement with with McQueen Equipment LLC for the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer PUC pumper. Item B, an ordinance amending Chapter 78 of the Grange Code of Ordinances regarding parking schedules. Item C, minutes of the Village of LaGrange Board of Trustees regular meeting, Monday, September 25th, 2023. Item D, consolidated voucher 231009. And item E, consolidated voucher 231023. Current business. This agenda item includes consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, fiscal year 2022-23, comprehensive annual financial reports.
Thank you, Clerk Saladino. So next on the agenda would be any public comments regarding items on the agenda. All right, seeing none, we will proceed to the consent agenda and vote portion of the agenda. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was presented.
A motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee O'Brien. Any discussion?
Second.
Trustee Augustine?
Yes, thank you, President Pro Tem Gale. As previously stated, I recuse myself from voting on any of the agenda items related to the village prosecutor.
Any other discussion?
I was reading about the fire trucks. So I have my question, which is, how does the fire department determine what the expected life of a fire truck is? When I was reading it, is it mileage or is it years? The 1991, that's an oldster. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what I said. I think I sat in it a few times. Yeah, and that'll be put up for auction then? When the new one runs. Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? All right, Clerk Saladino, can you call the roll?
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee Gale?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Thompson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to current business. The one item is the fiscal year 2023 or 2022-23 comprehensive annual financial reports, and I will refer that to Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Gale. For the full year 2023 comprehensive annual financial report, the village has put for review and acceptance the annual comprehensive financial report, better known as the ACFR, of the Village of LaGrange for the fiscal year May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023. As prepared by the Finance Department and reviewed by our auditors, Sickich LLP, is presented. Sickich has rendered a clean opinion indicating that the financial statements present fairly and in all material aspects respect the village financials position and a result of its operations as of April 30th, 2023. The auditor's communication is also attached, which includes the following documents. Number one, required communications. A letter from the auditors dated September 14th, 2023 regarding professional auditing standards that require communication of specific matters to the village board, including no new accounting policies were adopted and existing policies were not changed except for the implementation of a GASB statement number 87 leases. All material accounting estimates were reasonably misstatements year ending adjusted journal entries, that is, were corrected. There were no difficulties or disagreements with management during the course of the audit, and the limited scope related to the required supplemental information, the RSI, section within the ACFR. None of the misstatements detected as a result of the audit procedures were material and reflected year-end adjusting journal entries were prepared by the village but not posted until after audit was completed. Management made 2 adjustments according to the auditor's recommendation, which included recording reserves within the village's risk management pool and the Health and Benefits Cooperative, the IPBC. The second item is a management letter. Auditing standards also require communication to the village board regarding opportunities for strengthening internal controls and operational efficiencies. For the full year 2022 to 23, the management letter reports that there were no findings of material weakness related to the village's internal controls. Number 3, the annual comprehensive financial report, the ACFR. The clean opinion of Sikich LLP reflects that the village's financial statements are prepared and presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. The financial statements present government-wide and individual funds. Both allow the users to address relevant questions, broaden a basis of comparison, year to year or government to government, and enhance the village's accountability. Government-wide financial statements are designed to consolidate the village's activities into a total primary government entity utilizing the full accrual methods of accounting. Individual fund statements, which use the modified accrual method of accounting, are presented to ensure and demonstrate compliance within the financial-related legal requirements and budgetary compliance. Excuse me. Fiscal year 2022-2023 summary. The village's general fund did incur a minor deficit of $276,754 in the full year 2022-23 due to unexpected expenses such as staff recruitment, increase in supply costs, building maintenance, and professional services needed. The deficit was less than the budgeted deficit due to savings associated with temporary vacancies in several departments. The general reserve fund's balance at the end of fiscal year is $13.3 million or 63.9% of the annual operating expenditures, which is within the targeted reserve range. The village's parking fund, which incurred a deficit in the year, continued to be impacted by changes in commuter habits and associated decreases in daily and metered parking spaces. Revenue from parking enforcement is also similarly impacted. Deficits in the parking fund have significantly reduced the reserve balance, and in order to reserve the parking fund reserves, funds were transferred from the general funds reserve, resulting in a minimal parking fund surplus at the end of the year. Until parking study recommendations are implemented in earnest, continued transfers from the general fund may be needed to sustain the parking fund operations. Alternatively, funding options to sustain parking facility operations may need to be considered, particularly if the reduced parking demand continues in the future. The full year 2022 to 2023 annual comprehensive financial report was posted on the village website, and copies of the audit report were made available for inspection of the Grange Public Library, in the village clerk's office, and in the finance departments. The report will be submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association to be considered for the Certificate of Achievement of Excellence in the Financial Reporting, which the village has received for the past 27 years, which, by the way, a copy of that, the award for that is included in the financial package. And lucky for me, and much to y'all's disdain, I do have with tonight here partner from Sikich, James Savio, will present the rest of the brief overview of our financial statements. And thank you very much for coming, James.
Yeah, before you go on, can you double check your microphone is on?
All right, I got the green light now.
There you go.
All right. So I'll
Thank
start
you.
with a table of contents, which is a couple pages after the cover page. So you'll see in the table of contents, there's three main sections: the introductory section, the financial section, and then the statistical section. The financial section is the main and the bulk of the report. It starts off with the independent auditor's report, which I'll talk about in a minute. After that, because you expended more than $750,000 in federal funds this year, you're required to have, we call it a yellow book audit, but it's a report on internal control on financial reporting and compliance. That's what's on pages 5 and 6, and I'll talk real briefly about that as well. After that is management discussion and analysis. I'll talk briefly about that too. And then after that are the basic financial statements. So this is what we give an opinion on, are the basic financial statements. It starts off with your government-wide financial statements, the statement of net position, and the statement of activities. So that's basically your balance sheet and your income statement if this was a private sector company. These have are the consolidated financial statements of the village. So it's going to have all of the village's funds except for the police and fire pension funds. They're broken out by governmental activities, which are all your governmental funds, and then your business type activities, which is your water, sewer, and parking funds. They have a long-term focus. They include capital assets and long-term debt, and they're similar to private sector reporting. After that, then is to contrast with that are the fund financial statements for governmental funds. These have a short-term focus, so they don't have capital assets, they don't have long-term debt. Similar to how you budget, it's focused on current spendable resources. It's also presented, I should say, by major fund, and then all non-major funds are combined in the aggregate and shown in one column. And then there's a reconciliation on pages 13 and 16 that will show you how you get from that short-term focus to that long-term focus. So the second page of the table of contents, after the governmental funds are the proprietary funds. These have the same long-term focus. They just have a little more detail, a little bit different format, and there's a statement of cash flows that's included. After that are the fiduciary funds, the statement of fiduciary net position, and then the statement of changes in fiduciary net position. Again, that's your balance sheet and your income statement combined for your police and fire pension. There are combining statements where you can see the individual police and fire pension funds. That's on pages 102 and 103. After that are the notes to the financial statements on pages 24 through 75. I promise I won't go through these notes, but they are there to provide additional support for the basic financial statements and should be read in conjunction with it. After that, then is the required supplementary information. There's some budget versus actual reports for your general fund, and then your major special revenue fund, which is the motor fuel tax fund. And then after that, there's additional information on your pension and your OPEB plans. On the next page of the table of contents, then, are the combining and individual fund financial statements and schedules. A lot of additional combining statements, as well as additional detailed budget versus actual statements for your major and non-major governmental funds, proprietary and fiduciary funds. And then at the very end, too, there's some schedules on your long-term debt requirements. Then the final thing is the statistical section. You can see there's 5 basic categories in the stats section. It has a lot of great 10-year trend information, so it's really interesting stuff. I always say to the non-accountant, this is probably more interesting than the financial statements. So a lot of good information in there. So that's what's in the report. It's 132 pages. There's a lot of information, so I just wanted to give you an overview of what's actually in here. I'll start then on page 1, which is our independent auditor's report. And you may remember last year we did adopt new auditing standards, so it did change the format, the content of the independent auditor's report last year. So you'll see the very first section now is the opinion paragraphs, and you'll see in that second paragraph, in our opinion, the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's what we consider to be an unmodified opinion, so that's the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the village. After that, As Trustee Thompson alluded to, we did adopt GASB Statement 87 for leases. What this did is basically have you record information now on your balance sheet related to your leases. This is the first time that's occurred. Typically, if you had a lessor or a lessee lease, you'd recognize revenue and expense each year. You may have a footnote on it, but other than that, it didn't show up on your balance sheet. So that GASB 87 requires these items to be recorded on the balance sheet now, and there's more information on that in footnote 13 and 14. There were no material leases on the lessee side. You did have a cell tower lease on the lessor side, so that was recorded. And the last thing on the independent auditor's report on page 3, I'll go through the other matters section. And what this basically tells you is what procedures we performed on the other sections of the report. So the basic financial statements we give our opinion on. The required supplementary information, we do some limited procedures, but not enough to give an opinion on it. And that's what's explained in that first paragraph on page 3. The supplementary information are those combining an individual fund financial statements and schedules that I referenced previously. We give what we call an in relation to opinion on this information. In other words, in relation to those basic financial statements, they're not materially misstated. And then the other information is the introductory and statistical sections, which we do not give an opinion on. However, we do read the information, make sure it's not materially inconsistent with the basic financial statements or not otherwise materially misstated. If it were, we'd ask you to restate that information and communicate that to you. Obviously, that was not the case. So that is the independent auditor's report. The report right after that on page 5, like I said, this is a required opinion, or actually a required report due to the single audit requirement. And it's you'll see that report on internal control over financial reporting. The very last paragraph is where we state that we had no material weaknesses. We also had no significant deficiencies noted either. Then our report on compliance is the very next paragraph, the top of page 6. And we note there that we noted no instances of non-compliance. So those are the reports that we issue and are responsible for. The MD&A starts on MD&A page 1. That's right after that Yellow Book opinion. So this was prepared by Joe. A great overview of the village's financial position and changes in financial position. It'll highlight any significant changes or trends that might have occurred. And also has some 2-year comparative data that you can't find elsewhere in the report. So encourage you really to read the MD&A if you read one thing in this report, because it provides a good overview of the village's finances. And the last thing I'll talk about, and Trustee Thompson covered it pretty much, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I'll go over the general fund balance sheet. That starts on page 11 of the annual comprehensive financial report. And you'll see the assets are on page 11. And then the liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balance are on page 12. So for the general fund, that's your first column. I'll just focus in on the unassigned amount. At the end of fiscal year 23 was about $12.6 million, which is just a slight increase from the prior year balance of $12.4 million. So as Trustee Thompson said, that's in accordance with your fund balance policy of having at least 6-month reserve. Then the income statement for the general fund is on page 14. And again, the general fund is your first column, but the excess deficiency of revenues over expenditures at the very bottom of page 14 was about $4.9 million. Last year, the balance was about $4.4 million. And then on page 15, after transfers out of about $5.2 million, there was a small reduction in fund balance of about $277,000. We also had a prior period adjustment to record your IPBC terminal reserve on your financial statements. We also recorded the IRMA excess surplus as well. So that's all I have on the annual comprehensive financial report. I'll talk real quickly about the board communication. I think Trustee Thompson gave a good overview of the board communication report. But there is required communication that we have to have with the board each year. That's in the report. We did communicate. We implemented GASB 87, as Trustee Thompson said. Otherwise, pretty routine. We didn't have any disagreements with management, no delays with the audit. So pretty routine communication this year. After that, we list out our audit adjusting journal entries. So these are entries that we found as part of the audit process. So we have to communicate these to the board. We only had 3 entries this year, and they're on page 5. And the management letter starts on page 7. And this states as well in writing that we didn't have any material weaknesses. I'll also point out too, we didn't, as I said before, have any significant deficiencies. And we also didn't have any deficiencies this year as well. So great job by the staff. Very few journal entries and no comments. So that's the board communication report. Like I said, we issued a single audit report as well because you expended more than $750,000 in federal funds. We gave an unmodified opinion on that as well. And then we also, the Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or GATA, requires us to give an in relation to opinion on the consolidated financial report, the consolidated year-end financial report. So we did issue an unmodified opinion as well. So those are fairly stated in relation to the basic financial statement. So those are the reports we issued, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Well, thank you for that presentation. There's no, just so the board knows, there's no vote required on this. But certainly, if you have questions, now's the time to ask. I don't, but everybody else, feel free. All right. Seeing none, thank you for that presentation. Again, no vote is required, so we will simply accept the 2022-23 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report as it's been presented. So thank you very much.
Great, yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks again for your time.
All right, so then moving forward, now is the time for public comments regarding matters not on the agenda. So if there's anybody who would like to comment on any other matters, feel free to come up to the podium, tell us your name and address, and we'll listen to what you got to say.
Hi everyone, Laura West from Grange. I have not been to a meeting in a few times, but I am keeping track on the website as was pointed to do so for updates on flooding. I haven't seen any updates that are applicable to my neighborhood or anything north of 47th. I also didn't hear the word flooding once in this meeting prior to me mentioning it. So I'm just curious, and as always would like to get updates on any progress. I know there's probably a lot going on behind the scenes. In our world, it's every week is a long time, and every month without rain is another lucky one. October has been very bad in the past, and then November is hit or miss, but I don't think we can rest and assume that we don't have problems. So hearing of the strategic planning session, I urge this to be a huge priority for the board, and I hope that it's a big topic this weekend. I look forward to getting some updates on progress north of 47th, so maybe we don't have to be here talking about it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. West. Any other comments? All right. Seeing none, are there any trustee comments? Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, President Gale. Just regarding Ms. West's comment, and maybe Jack, you could answer this. The engineering proposal that is being worked on currently is due in spring of 24. Maple Avenue area that would be overview. It would be handling the waters of her neighborhood.
The study that's currently being conducted by engineers is anticipated to be done right around the close of the year. Based off that report, we'll have the opportunity to consider some of the recommendations and prioritize within that report, and budget appropriately as we can.
Right, and then we'll probably be discussing that in length at the meeting when we've digested that information with the
Yeah, there will be a presentation scheduled for when the report is complete, and then we'll have the opportunity to discuss it.
Okay.
Any other trustee comments? All right, seeing none, we will move on to closed session. So at this time, it is the intention of the village board to meet in a closed session under section 2C5 of the Illinois Opens Meeting Act to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, and section 2C11 of the act to discuss pending, probable, or imminent litigation. The village board will not reconvene to open session, and no further formal action will be taken. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
I move to close this meeting and to move into closed session.
A second.
Thank you, Trustee Thompson, and second from Trustee McGee. Clerk Saladino, please call the roll.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
All right. The motion carries, and we will, the board will adjourn and move into closed session at 8:08 p.m.